Hey, chicks, let's chat. So, listen, this topic today is for all the people who have at some point experienced, a relationship or some type of situation, whether it was friendship, whether it was something to do with someone in your family, whoever it may have been, right? Something happened in a relationship where it didn't flourish or whatever. It didn't become what you wanted it to be. It didn't become what you thought it would be, what it should have been, right? And then you walk away from the situation, or the situation walks away from you, and then now you find yourself angry at the person, you know, and it's really not that they did anything really to you. They ain't beat you. They have not put hands on you. They ain't cussed you out in a way that you just, oh, they just said the worst things in the world. They really didn't do anything to you. You and your homegirl fell out after years of being friends. You never really did anything to her. She never did anything to you bad. It just didn't work out. You know, y'all just end up going y'all separate ways. Maybe there was a little jealousy in it or something on one or both sides that you may be thinking, and that may just be something you coming up with because you can't come up with anything else as to why the situation didn't work, right? um could be a situation with you and a guy. you know the relationship was good, or whatever y'all had going on, it was good, but it didn't flourish into nothing. Or after a while you just wanted more and you couldn't get that from the situation, and then you find yourself, like I said, disliking the person, disliking, you know, them to the point where it really bothers you. Now you feel like you have some trauma from this situation. And I'm smiling because I feel like a lot of times we put unjust stuff on ourselves, right? And I'm not saying that just because you go through a relationship and it don't work, that don't mean there was no trauma associated with it. But what I'm saying is, all the time it ain't as heavy as we make it be. Sometimes we put a little more on that thing than what it should be. We give it way too much credit, in a sense, and really it don't even be that serious. It's just the fact that we're hurt, or we're dealing with grieving the relationship. We're dealing with the fact that it's no longer, and we're hurt by that. And instead of just being hurt by that for the moment, dealing with it, acknowledging it, this hurt my feelings, I feel some kind of way about this, maybe I'll take a day off work about it or whatever, deal with it, and then let it go. We have to dig ourselves all the way in a deep hole about something that it really should have never been that serious. It shouldn't be that deep. It didn't have to be that deep. It really wasn't. That girl never really did nothing to you. Y'all just ain't friends no more. He never really did anything to you. Y'all just ain't together. Your whatever, whoever it may be, your cousin or whatever, whoever you ain't talking to, your sister, that person never really did anything to you. Y'all just don't see eye to eye. But is it enough to where you have to find yourself in a whole slump? And I'm not knocking counseling. Go to counseling for whatever you want. But is it enough to be slumped over, crying, snotty nose about? Because one thing about it, everybody don't go get counseling. So then now crashing out in the worst way about situations that it really was not that bad. A lot of our situations ain't that bad. We make it be worse than what it is. We think about it too much, too long, too hard. All the coulda, wouldas, and shouldas. We would drive ourselves crazy about situations that really, it wasn't that hard. It wasn't tough, baby. It was life. It was just a situation that it was never going to last that long. It was never supposed to. You were supposed to enjoy the moments, get your lessons, and be gone. And that was that. And maybe you did want to be best friends with her for ever and ever and ever. But maybe she didn't want that with you. And I think the problem is that we don't know how to accept rejection. And I say that for me too. I say that for me too because listen, I don't even have to like you. This is something that I have noticed about me, right? I cannot even be liking you. But soon as I find out that I think that as a man you call yourself not liking me, I have a problem with that. Like, what is your problem, Joker? Like, who? You know? And that's crazy because I wasn't even calling you. I ain't even really like you no more. And then as soon as I think that you got a little razzle dazzle going on over there, now I got a nerve to be puffing my chest out. The audacity, the nerve of me, right? So, like I say, a lot of times, man, we make stuff way too hard. We make it way bigger than what it is. And then there are situations where, guess what? Because that person never really did anything to you, if you want your friend back, go get your friend. You know, and I'm inspired to say that, like, off of a little clip I seen where Chaotic was saying how much he missed his homeboy Scrappy. You know, and they had said a couple of things about each other in the media or whatever. You know, those type of things we do when we don't know how to control our emotions. We say the wrong things about people, and then we make it hard to even be able to come back and fix the situation, right? But even when you done did that, as long as you ain't did too much, as long as you ain't said too much, told all their business, made them look real bad, usually it's always a chance that you could go get your friend back. You know, there are times when we really do miss people who were in our life, and we have too much pride to go and get our friend back, to go and get our man back, to go and get the girl back, or whatever the situation may be. Too much pride. We miss the relationship. We miss calling them, laughing, kiki, kaka. We miss all of that. But sometimes we be done did too much. When the relationship was going sour, you was talking about it like a dog. So now it's impossible for you to go and try to rectify that situation, or at least you feel that it's impossible to rectify it, because you know she heard about it, and you know she probably ain't trying to hear you. You know, so then that's just, hey, you lost on that end because you didn't end the situation proper. So now you can never go back and rectify it. You can always go back and say you sorry. You can always go back and tell her, hey, listen, that shouldn't have ended like that. I wish we ended on better terms, but just know it ain't no beef, and I don't have no ill feelings or no sour, you know, feelings towards you. You can always go back and straighten your face with that person. And if you grown, and when you get grown, I feel like you should do that. They may never, that don't mean it's kumbaya and come back and, hey, you invited to my house and now you got my new phone number. That don't mean none of that. Because they may never open their arms to you in that way again. But then again, they just might. And then maybe they might do it later on in life. You never know. You know, but if you knew that you was wrong about something and you want to fix your face with that person, I don't feel like it's ever too late to show them that you grown, and to show them that you a bigger person, and that you realize where you went wrong at. You know, but I do feel like it's just situations where we have to have some real conversations with ourselves. Sometimes, baby, you just got to steal away and just tap back into you. We always trying to tap in with other people and be, you know, hate to be alone, hate to be by ourselves. And sometimes those moments you need those moments by yourself so you could fix the stuff you done messed up, fix the stuff you finna mess up, redirect. And you just need those moments to like do self-check-ins, like, hey, what did I go wrong at? Because you ain't right about everything. Just like I ain't right about everything, you know, but it was times in my life where you couldn't tell me that I wasn't right about that. You know, I just wasn't grown enough or mature enough to receive that I'm wrong in this area about this that I know so much about. You know what I'm saying? I didn't want to do the inner work and just say, you know what? He might have had a point. You might be wrong when it comes to this in this particular area. You know what I'm saying? And that's not to say like, okay, you need to just say, oh yeah, you right about everything just to make the relationships better, this, that. No. I ain't never saying do none of that. What I'm saying is though, still away and make sure you got your mind right. Still away and make sure your emotions are checked. And if they're not, then you need to be able to self-regulate and check those emotions, check those things in you. that are out of control. And sometimes you can't do that when you're always surrounded by people, because when you're always surrounded by people, a lot of times you putting on for those people, so you can never get self-checked because you're around people, and you want to keep on with your facade, you want to keep on with your representative, you want to keep on with what you stand on, this and that, and none of them people around you self-check are self-checked, and they can't check you either. So that's why sometimes you can't get right till you get from around people and really do the work, right? So again, go back to what I was first saying. A lot of situations that we have deemed just like, oh, such big heartbreaks and the worst thing that could have happened to me and this, that, and the third. Some of those things ain't that heavy. It ain't that heavy. You know, you just made it that heavy, and you just, you know, your emotions are a tad bit out of control, tad bit unchecked. Your reality also may be a tad bit out of control and a tad bit unchecked. And you know why I say that? Because a lot of times we sit around here mad at people because they are not who we wanted them to be. Mad at people because they didn't show up for us in the way we wanted them to. Not in the way they wanted to show up, but we mad because they did not show up for us in the way we wanted them to. They may have never even known how we wanted them to show up. And we so angry with them. Oh, he never did this. Oh, he never did that. You wait for him to bring you flowers when he was never a flower giver. That's not how he shows his love. That's not how he shows his appreciation. And did you ever tell him that you wanted flowers? Did you ever tell him that, hey, that's a huge thing for me. I need flowers. Did you ever say that? And definitely if you never said it, then you can't give that man that charge and hold him accountable for that. You know, and then when he, you know, the relationship ends and you're like, oh my gosh, he never even brought me flowers, you know. But what about all the other stuff that he did do, that he was comfortable with, that was his love language? That was the way he showed how he cared about you. See, a lot of, with women, sometimes we do get it wrong. We always want the man to show up and give us and show his love for us in the way that we want it. It don't always work like that. That man not accustomed to just showing you how he loves you in your way. He's dealt with multiple women. You know what I'm saying? So he's not always just going to show you how he feels about you in your own particular way. Now, yeah, there are going to be times when he's tapped in and he wants to do it only your way, you know. But for the most part, when he say, hey, you know, let's go out on a date, this and that, Ruth Chris might be your standard. He may be okay with Longhorns, right? So just because he take you to Longhorns, that don't mean that he's cheating you. That don't mean that, you know, oh, he ain't trying to do his big one, or he ain't trying to impress me, or he's trying to lowball me. Maybe that's his love language. Maybe that says like, hey, I care about her. I want to treat her to something nice. Maybe that's his standard. Because yours may be way up here. That don't mean that what he's doing is not sufficient. You know, and later on as y'all get, you know, more tied in, if that happens, then y'all will learn those things about each other. And sometimes it's a lifelong lesson of learning each other. So just because that person, you know, y'all been together in a couple years, you know, for a couple years, and, you know, maybe he still isn't doing every single thing that you want him to do in the way that you want him to do, or better yet, in the way that your homegirl man showed up. He's not doing those things that you see your friend over there getting. So then now you feel like he's insufficient. Y'all got to stop doing it. Y'all got to stop looking over at other places. Because let me tell you something. I could sit in the middle as who I am, and I could look to the right and I have friends who, guess what? They have everything that they want and need because they got a man that works hard, pays bills, takes care of the household, right? They may not go on that many trips. They may not do any of that. right? But they ain't want for nothing. Bills paid on time. Husband ain't cheating, ain't tricking, ain't nothing, ain't giving her no problem in none of those areas. All right, then I could look to the other side and say, oh, well, this person, they take a lot of trips, or they always on the scene, they out, da 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 da. But I can't say the same thing for their man that I could say for the person that's on the right. So it just depends on what it is that works for you and your household. Stop looking at what this other person have, because the person may say, well, I don't care that he work and he pay bills and this and that, because if he ain't taking me nowhere, or we ain't going out and doing this and doing that, then I have a problem with that. And then the other person may say, I don't care nothing about all that going, doing this and that, because he pay the bills and because he's my support, I could go anywhere I want to. I choose not to do this, that, or the third, but I can if I want to, because he's a provider in that way, and I don't have to do this, pretty much on my own. So you can't keep looking at other people's situations and expecting that this is how he's supposed to show up for me. No, you have your own standards on how a person is supposed to show up for you, and then you slowly but surely teach them. You teach that person how to show up for you and how to be something for you that you want them to be, right? And even within that, they have to wanna mesh. They have to want to tap into you in that way and want to please you and want to do that, And like I said, we be around here mad with people because they was never Prince Charming, and then you mad and crying and slobbing and about to fall out in your therapist's office because he was never Prince Charming. He wasn't Prince Charming before you got with him. Now you mad because he wasn't Prince Charming. He was never that. Stop it. Be honest with yourself. You know what I'm saying? Like, you mad, you done got with this woman and all she do is run the street. She was never a housewife type. You made her that without her ever being that. I don't care what she said with her mouth. Yeah, she said she wanted to be married. She said she was this, she was that. But what she's proven to you is the opposite of that. So you see that it's the opposite of that. So you can't be slumped over and mad and angry because she showed up as who she is. That's who she is. We be so mad with people because they're not who we want them to be. You didn't birth them. You didn't raise them. So those are the only people that I feel like you could be upset that this person did not turn out the way you envision them to be. After you invested your private school money, you invested college tuition, you invested these things, and then they still turned out to be a certain way. Okay, you can understand that. But if you ain't did all that to a person, for an individual, how dare you be so upset that they not who you think they should be? And that was a lesson that I had to learn. I had to grow in that because I was one of them people, angry and mad because you was never this. You never got a job. You never got your emotions in check. You never did this. That wasn't who you were when I met you. So why am I not mad if 10 years later you don't have a job? When you weren't ever a worker. You just wasn't ever that type of person. So I can't be mad later. You was never a faithful person. So if our situation didn't work out and I found out you was doing X, Y, and Z, what I'm slumped over and slobbing for? Because that's who you were. The problem is we put on rose-colored glasses and we like to see people through those glasses and see them for what we want to see them for. When no, you got to look at people for who they are. That's who you are, babe. I either can accept that or I can't. Y'all enjoy your day.